Instagram Live, um, you always have to, you're completely at the mercy of the Wi-Fi. So
Yes.
don't worry. Thank
I
you
mean,
everyone
normally
for,
I have fiber optics, but
okay,
I'm
but let
just
me
going to
just
get
let
closer
people,
to the.
let me let people know that we're here, excited to have you today. It's episode 4, Breaking New Ground. Yetunde Fraudeau, who's a Nigerian born, moved to Paris a few years ago, and now she lives in Spain. And are you the founder or the co-founder of Let's Eat the World? Oops, I think she's still trying uh, to fix her connection. So Yetunde, Yetunde has been living in Spain for a couple of years. So, and she's the founder of Let's Eat the World. Can you hear me, Yetunde?
Almost 2 years now.
Almost 2 years.
I
So
can
I
hear
was
you very well.
asking
Can you
you,
hear me? Yes.
yeah, I was asking you before we had these connection issues. You've been living outside of the US. Basically, you've been living in France before you moved to Spain for 17 years.
That's correct. Yes, that's correct. So
Okay.
I'm originally from Nigeria. Moved to the US when I was about 6 years old, and lived in the US for 20 years before moving to France. Although I wasn't moving to France per se, I was supposed to be going to France for 1 year to do an internship, which turned into 8 years in Paris, and then some additional years in two locations in the south of France. So in total, I lived 17 years in France.
So let's start from the beginning because I have these guests, they have a unique journey, between between the time you lived in Lagos, because that's where you were born and raised for
Yes.
6 years, you moved to New York. Have you been at any point during your childhood in Lagos in contact with French culture?
Yes, because my dad was a civil engineer, and he was supposed to be posted with the Lake Chad Basin Commission. And Lake Chad, you know, Nigeria is surrounded by Francophone countries. So we were at one point going to be moving to, I think we're going to be moving to Cameroon actually.
Mm.
And I had a French tutor who was teaching my little brother and myself French. So my first French was songs and things like that. And then finally, he ended up not doing the posting. So the French lessons stopped, but French was in my head. So when I moved to the US, and the first foreign language that we learned was actually Spanish, I did 3 years of Spanish before I was in a school that we got to choose between Spanish, Italian, and French. And I said, okay, I have to do French. I want to do French. So I switched to French, and I just kept doing French beyond it being a requirement. So like I didn't have to do it for as many years as I did, but I continued French in university. I studied abroad in Paris my junior year as well. And I love languages. My dream idea was always to be able to get off a plane anywhere in the world and be able to speak to the natives in their language. That would be that would be my dream.
Well, I mean, you're definitely living your dream, but let's remain in the US. So you learned French in Nigeria because your father was supposed to be posted in Chad or Cameroon, and then you moved to the US. So when you came to the US, you were almost between 6 and 7 years old. So you came as an immigrant. Uh, what I would like to learn before we get into Let's Eat the World, because it's also, I believe that your childhood, your experience shape the way you make your choices, and also the type of business that you get in. You came here as an African girl in the US. How was the experience? Because from there you're already an immigrant.
Yes, I I basically remained one the entire time that I was in the US.
Why are you saying that? Why did you?
Well, I mean, it was my personal experience was unexpected for me. I expected that when I'd come to the US that I was going to, I mean, no, actually, I had no expectations. I didn't really know anything about the US. Even if I had watched movies that took place in the US, it didn't have any meaning for me whatsoever. And I didn't think we were going to be staying there. Unfortunately, I lost my mother within a year of being in the US, and that really
Mm,
changed everything.
mm,
Um,
sorry.
but I never really felt at home. And part of that was the unexpected welcome that or lack of welcome that I received from people who looked just like me. So it was a very confusing experience for me being so young and being so treated like other. Um, the first thing was always, what language are you speaking? And I'm like, I'm speaking English. I've been
Mm.
speaking English this whole time and didn't understand my English, didn't understand my accent. And there's actually a very funny video of me of my seventh birthday when I tried to imitate an American accent, and it's the funniest thing I've ever seen. I went all out. Yeah, man. What you gonna do, man?
Wow.
It was
Wow.
it was
What you're saying is fascinating because you felt like another with people who look just like you, but they
yeah,
look just. And I always say to people, it's not because we are black that we are the same, because
yeah.
we have complete different experiences. So what you're saying is fascinating. So you obviously by the time you became a teenager, you went to college, and I
Yeah,
believe you went to Cornell University.
that's right. I went to
And what
Cornell.
did you study? What did you study when you went to Cornell?
I was actually a psychology major. Like a lot of people who decide to do psychology, I was trying to figure all these things out in my own life. So psychology fascinated me, and it still does. And But in the end, I decided after I did my 4-year degree, which I actually did in 3 years, I think more or less.
Because you're so
Um,
smart, like any all of those machines.
No, I was so I said no. You know what? They're so smart. It was also because I was like, this system of all this money that you pay, before Sally Mae became Navient or whatever they call it now. I said I cannot believe I'm going to have to be in debt to this institution for so long because of something I decided to do when I was 18 years old. It doesn't make any sense to me. So I actually counted my credits and I said, how fast can I get out of here so I don't have to keep paying this money? Um,
Immigrant mindset.
and
So
they were
you
like,
did
what are you
you
trying to do? I said, I gotta go. Let's see. You see, I have all the credit. It's all good. You can let me go now.
so you did your degree in psychology in three
Yeah.
years,
Yeah.
and then you moved to Paris.
Well, no, I moved into New York City because actually I was living in Westchester County.
Oh, where I
So this is
live.
yeah,
Okay.
so this is just outside of White Plains, New York.
Hmm.
And I was actually working in the city
Hmm.
before I moved to Brooklyn,
Okay.
and I was trying to continue to use my French. So I was with temp agencies who were trying to place me in different French companies.
What year?
Um,
What year are we talking about at that
this was
point?
from the time I graduated. So when did I graduate? I graduated in 99, but I'm the class of 2000. So
Okay.
2000, and that time period. And so I was working in Manhattan. And the last job, I had this one temp agent who was like, I'm going to find you your dream job. I swear I'm going to find you your dream job. Don't give up on me, please. I was like, okay, okay. But I have to eat. So I'm going to take the job that they're offering me now. And then she said, I have a perfect interview for you. And she sent me to an interview with Accor Hotels.
Oui,
So
d'accord.
yeah, so they're the group that own the Sofitel, Novotel. Some people are more familiar with that. And so I went to interview with them as for an administrative assistant position to the director of operations and to the director of marketing. And I said, you know what? You're right. You found me the job I want because it's a hotel group and I want to see the world. I said, yes, I'm going to go in there. I'm going to work there and I'm going to see how I can get around this group so I can go to other locations throughout the world. So I said, that's perfect. Thank you very much. She's got the French. She's got the other components I wanted. And also at the time, I decided to go to a culinary school. So the thing I didn't mention before is when I was about the age, my mother was a caterer when we were back in Nigeria.
Oh.
And so I was around food. And you know, as a Nigerian, there's always food. You come to a person's house, there's always food. And I loved going with my mom to all the events that she was in charge of. It was very exciting for me. But at the same time, because I lost her so young, I also was feeling like, okay, my passion for wanting to go towards food, is it because of something I want, or is it because I'm trying to, continue what she was unable to? So
Mm.
instead, I said, no, I have to do something serious. I have to do something in the sciences. And so I went in that direction instead. But my passion for cooking still remained. I've been cooking since I was 9 years old.
Mm.
Um, so I went to a culinary school.
So
And the
you went
idea
to
of
the
going to,
culinary school in New York.
while I was working, yeah, I was working full time and I was going to the culinary school in the evenings in New York City. And the idea was never to become a chef, even though I had chef instructors who were like, oh, you should do. And I said, no, that's not really what I want to do. What I want to do is, I feel like a person I wanted to lead chefs. I wanted to be able to work with chefs and for me to say to them, I need you to do this, or let's try this. And they can't come back and tell me, oh, no, that's not possible. I'm like, yes, it is actually. So, to have the knowledge to be able to talk to them on their level. I thought that was very important for me. So I was
So
thinking something more food and beverage, management.
so between the time you worked with Accor and graduated from the culinary school, how was your move to Paris from New York to Paris?
So yeah, so that came because Accor decided they wanted to move their corporate office to Dallas, Texas. And I didn't want to go to Dallas, Texas. So I said, all right, I started talking to people in the group and I said, okay, I would like to get back to Paris because I had, like I said, I studied abroad in Paris. I said, so is there anybody here who can help me get an internship in Paris? Because I'm not going to Texas. Um, and somebody decided to help me out and got me an internship at the Sofitel, in one of the Sofitels in Paris. And I was supposed to be there for 12 months, 12 to 18 months. And the idea actually was not just to be in the kitchen, even though I was going to start in the kitchen, it was to circulate around the hotel. At least that was the
Mm.
project that I
Mm.
had in my mind. What they had in their minds may have been a different thing, but me, I wanted to see all the different offices within the hotel group to say, okay, yeah, this is where I want to go. But I spent most of my time being in the kitchen,
Mm.
which was fun, but it was not the purpose of my
Mm.
my being there.
Mm.
So for me, it wasn't working out. So I decided that I didn't want to work there anymore. And at the same time, I had a woman who had helped me, help us find the apartment that we were living in. Because my husband actually, well, he wasn't my husband at the time. We had met at a food and beverage conference because he also worked for the Accor group, but he was the chef at the Sofitel in Canada, one of the Sofitels in Canada.
Mm.
And he decided that he said, I don't believe in long distance relationships, and decided to follow me to Paris. I said, okay, why
And
not?
he's
That sounds like
Canadian, so you're well. We're gonna
he
go to
he
your.
is Canadian, but he's French. He's French, but he also has Canadian nationality
Okay,
because he lived in Canada for more than 10 years. So
okay. So he's a French native.
yes, he's from La Rochelle.
Oh, he's from La
Um,
Rochelle, not
yeah, he's
far
from
from
La
where I
Rochelle.
was born, Poitiers. Okay.
Yeah, he was actually born in Poitiers as well.
Well, you see, we find them sometime. Well,
Yeah.
I wanna know a bit. I understand, you're trying to get yourself your footing in France,
Mm,
but because you live in France at that point, I just want to talk about that experience
yeah.
then. And you also worked in America. Any two, three major differences in terms of in
Yes.
the workplace as you, in terms of experience that you can share with the audience?
Definitely. I think that one of the things that I found challenging working in Paris was this idea of things being impossible.
Oh,
It, you know, the number of times, and I wish that somebody had told me all of that before because I would have been much better prepared that it's normal to hear c'est pas possible. that just right off the bat, they don't even let you finish the phrase, c'est pas possible. And you're like, but why? What do you mean? What, you know? And the way that things are in the US, I mean, perhaps it's the complete polar opposite. Everything seems possible, even if it's
Mm,
not, you
mm.
know? So it's one extreme to the other. It's possible, it's impossible, and you have to kind of decide which one works for you. I found that the impossibilities that were presented to me was not too much, not enough thinking outside of the box. Um, they found me challenging because I asked questions. When something didn't make sense to me, I'm like, why? I don't understand why you want me to just accept it. As well, that's just the way it is. So that was really that was probably one of the big reasons why I decided I didn't want to stay in that particular post, and I
So,
and I ended up doing something else.
so I want now to fast track. You moved to Paris. You work for Sofitel or the Groupe Accor,
Mm.
and this concept of "ce n'est pas possible" was becoming too much for you. When did you decide to launch your first business?
Well, I was there for 6 months, so it
So
was
6 months later, you decided to
so
launch your first business.
well. I mean, the way actually the way that I work is the same idea that I had with my psych. When I was doing psychology, I always knew that I wanted to work for myself, but I also not I'm not I'm humble enough to know that there's something to learn from our elders. There's something to learn from those who have come before. So I wanted to go learn from people, take all I could from that, and then build what I wanted.
Mm,
So initially, I was working for a Canadian woman who had a vacation rental company in Paris, and I was helping her sort everything out. She had just had a baby, so she was really busy, and I said, "Wonderful, I can assist you. Let me do that." I was in there. I was cleaning apartments for her. I was welcoming clients. I was creating booklets for her to put into these apartments. And I decided that this was in line with what I wanted to do. It combined the things that I love, the
mm,
hospitality, the meeting people, the
mm.
sharing my experiences with them, and so I said I would like to do this as well, and so I launched Feels Like Home in Paris,
Can you
which still
repeat it?
exists.
You launched what?
Feels Like Home in Paris.
Oh, feel like home in Paris.
So
Okay.
this was my vacation rental company that still exists, but I sold it in 2013. And Stephanie, who's the current owner, still is running the company. But basically, I came up with the tagline: "Hotels give you a room, we give you a home,"
Mm,
because that was exactly what I wanted people to feel. Like when they came to each apartment, it was like there was a very special touch. I was there most of the time to be the one to greet them, and then I had other
mm.
people also working with me at some point. But I think it was within, um, let's say between 8 to 12 months
Eight
of
to
the
12
time I was
months. So
there.
let me do a
Yeah.
recap. People are joining. Jazia, thank you. She said very interesting. Someone said that you in the world. For the audience who are just joining, I have here Yetunde. She's a Nigerian born who moved to New York when she was 6 years old, attended college, graduated from Cornell University, worked a few years in New York, and moved to Paris. She worked for the Groupe Accor, for the French speaking that are online, and decided to launch her first business in Paris, and she sold it in 2013. I'm saying that because this is not very something usual in France to actually come in, have a business, and sell it, especially when you're a foreigner, even though that your husband is French
Hmm.
speaking. So what is the name of the company that you launched?
Feels Like Home in Paris.
Feel like home in Paris. So you ran that company for how long? I think I heard on
7 years. It was 7 years.
so from feel like home in Paris to let's eat the world. What happened? When did you launch that?
So well, there's a in between period there. So when I helped my husband start his company in Paris, which was Cooking with Class.
So before your husband, when you moved to Paris, well, I mean, I know we because we can speak for 3 hours.
Yeah.
You you were dating your husband. Your husband was in Canada. He moved to Paris to be with you, and at that point, he was working as a chef for someone else.
So yeah, he decided to take somewhat of a mental break because he'd been working in high-end hotels in Canada, in Mexico, and New York for
Oh
many
wow!
years. He had left France when he was 24 years old with no real intent of returning, but then he did because he followed me back there. So he actually was working for the Hard Rock Cafe for three
Oh,
years
okay.
as a manager. And at that time, it was while he was thinking about what he wanted to do next. And with the vacation rental company that I had, one of the suggestions that I made is that what if you offer classes to my clients, you know? And so we did sort of a test run. I actually created his first website. I created his first business card. We
You
did a little.
are the girl. When you say that you're a boss lady, this is what it takes to get shit done when you're an entrepreneur. But go ahead, go ahead.
Yeah, so I just, I'm used to, my father is an engineer. As I said, I'm used to DIY. If I have to, I will take the wrench and I will do what needs to be done just because, that's how it works. But so we did the first class with one of my clients who has come to Paris for her birthday, and we did it in the apartment. So he took them to the market. I was there taking pictures of the whole thing so that we could use that again then when we were going to do his site. And then he found the location, started the school. I gave him the name of the school as well. It was meant to be Cooking, Cooking, but somebody else already owned the domain name. Was
Mm,
very upset, but they had no website, and that was very annoying. So
mm.
I said, okay, well, my all those years in the U.S. taught me something. I said, you know what? Just put an apostrophe N, cooking with class, and then that's where the name came from. So that's why it's called Cooking with Class and not Cooking with Class. And that's been in existence since the year we got married, which was in 2007. So 15 years.
And how
Uh,
so? Tell us the journey of running this business. Who were your client? Were they foreigners? Were they
yeah.
French?
So the clients at Feels Like Home in Paris are mostly American, Australian, and Canadian. So all English speaking. Then I had English clients as well, because the company. I mean, obviously I spoke French, but all my advertising, my website was all in English. I had clients. I had some Asian clients as well. So they were pretty much from all
I
over.
mean, 2007 is not 2022. Social media was not as it is today. So was it a word of mouth? How did you get your clients?
There was plenty of word of mouth. I found that, for example, my Australian clients were because they come from so far. I think that they take recommendations from their friends and family very seriously. So they were very good for sending other people to me as well. And then as soon as I saw that Facebook allowed us to have a business page, I created a business page for the company. And
Mm,
I went from 0 to 7,000 followers on there in
mm.
a very short amount of time, something that is much more difficult to do today because of all their
Algorithm.
algorithms and
Unless you buy
money
some
making
ad,
schemes.
you
Exactly.
can't get anything done on Facebook. But anyway,
No,
that's a different
no.
story.
So yeah, so it was a little bit easier then. Google was easier to understand then as well. I mean, I would be going in every day and goes, oh, how many visits did I get to the site? Oh, I had 100 visitors today. Oh,
Mm.
okay. So I was doing all of those things myself. I did the first website myself, and then I had a little bit of help when I wanted to make some changes in there. And it was probably a little bit easier because there was not so much noise,
Yeah,
you know?
yeah.
Um,
I mean, social media is like real estate. The first who got in get the most out of it at a cheaper price. So, I
yeah,
mean, in terms of getting a bigger community. So you 2007. So you launched that. Your husband joins you, and he start, uh, uh, I guess,
the
providing
cooking school. Yeah.
cooking classes, and you open that cooking school. How's life there for you? Now at that point, you just know that America is behind you. How was it, on a day to day, Nigerian American, French now, running a business in France, in Paris? And then why did you move to the south of France before you moved to Spain?
Well, I mean, I was mostly, well, I had French friends, but I had a lot of expat friends as well, or immigrant friends,
Mm.
who were coming from the U.S. and Canada, and mostly U.S. and Canada, a few Australians, and so there was that community there, and we used to do those tweet ups and and all these different meetups that we did to try to connect. So there was a network of people who were helping each other out foreigners who had businesses who were helping other foreigners who had businesses.
So
So,
let me interrupt you because I do know I'm a French native, or
mhm.
I've left France now for 20 years. But would you say, as a Nigerian American, your experience living in France as an entrepreneur was probably very different, like as a French, oh, someone as a French native of African descent who's from there? Would you say that there's a difference? And if you feel that there is, can you please share them with us?
I think I would say probably so because I think that I had a privilege that I'm very well aware of. The fact that I had that American passport made a huge difference
Mm.
because I think that already I was regarded as different, like but different, you know. So it was to my advantage to be this French speaking non-francophone in this francophone country that some opportunities I guess I mean it was more maybe some things were just more accepted than they would have been from somebody who came directly from,
Can
even though
you
if someone who came directly from Nigeria to France, or some came from the Ivory Coast to France directly,
do you have
because
a
I had that
specific
American connection.
do you have something specific? I mean, I can share. This is the example that I always give to people, and I'm going to be super brief.
Mm,
I was flying with Air France from Cotonou, and the plane landed in Paris at 5 a.m. And before you get off the plane, you already have those police officers with their light on, checking
mm,
everyone's passport. And I was online and I was seeing how they would be checking, and with the light in their face at 5 a.m. it was dark, and checking the passport with really so little respect. But then when I handed my passport, it was my turn. I got that welcome. I mean, for me it was just well, obviously I was like bonjour. I mean, I was very short,
mm.
but it was so obvious to me that clearly this is the first time that I actually experienced it blatantly. Do you have a specific example of how you experience it? Because a lot of African Americans are dreaming about Paris, which is great because we have du coup j'ai un trou de mémoire, mais she just got a lot of African Americans moved to Paris when
Yes.
racism was such as at a high was very high in America. But I just wanted to know if there was any specific example.
uh I don't know. You know what happens is that you after a while things just, I don't know, you get so used to seeing certain things or hearing certain things that it just goes over your head after. You just you put on blinders, because otherwise how do you function in your day if not? I can't really.
No, it's okay if you don't have it because your
Yeah,
client actually
I
when
can't really think of any specific things. I mean, I've noticed differences in how people are treated for sure. If you go to the prefecture, I mean, I kid my husband and I say, part of the reason that I married you is that I was tired of standing in line at the prefecture de police to renew my visa, to have to justify everything. I remember being terrified because I was hearing these people at the table, at the desk next to us, getting strange questions like, what side of the bed does he sleep on? Where does he put his toothbrush? And I'm thinking, who is paying attention to that rubbish? I said, what are they? But the American passport allowed me the freedom of not having to go through what that person over there was going through.
Okay.
And I knew that, you
Okay.
know, I was aware of that. And
I think it's
so
very
there,
important because for me, I'm a transcultural person, and it's very important for me when I speak with my guests to understand that experience is varied based on your passport, based on your accent. It's not
hmm
automatically based on your skin. It could be
yeah,
based on so many other things. But anyway, and I'm assuming that most of your clients are foreigners.
yes,
They were not
yes.
French. They were not local. They were mostly foreigners.
Well, particularly for the vacation rental company, yes. And then for now, the company that I have as well, mostly it's all going to be foreigners because again, the when I'm doing the with Let's Eat the World, we're doing culinary holidays, and I'm at the moment at the beginning it was mostly French. So the French already sometimes feel like, oh well, c'est pas comme mamie a fait, ou oh moi je fais pas ça comme ça. So you know, it's but it's true. I mean, it's
J'adore.
part
C'est
of the
pas comme
reason
mamie a
why.
fait.
Oui, exactement. Donc, it's exactly why, for example, my husband, who is French, decided that he was not going to do French cooking classes for French people. He was going to do it for Anglophones because they would be more appreciative of, you know, of what there was. No insult to the French, but just because, and everybody could profit from this experiences. You learn something, but it's true that it's a little bit more difficult. Like I would say it's probably the same anywhere. Maybe I mean if you're in Italy and you're going, well, I want to do Italian
Of
cooking
course.
classes to the Italians, they'll be like, oh no, no, Mama doesn't do it like that. And then it's like, and then
So you
and then
you
you don't
you
go
you
anywhere.
you run your business in Paris, and then you move to the south of France.
Yes, um, for several reasons. One was that living in Paris was the first time that I had lived for such an extended period of time in an apartment. And I
Okay.
missed being able to walk out the door and see trees and just. Paris is a place that is easy to fall in love with, and it's easy to fall out of love with at the
Mm-hmm.
same time.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Especially when you're working there. You see,
Mm.
when you're on vacation, it's a different thing. You come in, it's beautiful. Oh, le Tour
That's
Eiffel,
right.
Champs-Élysées, blah, blah.
Mhm.
Everything is so glamorous, and you're going to this museum and that museum. But most of the time, when you're working there, you see there's so much going on, and you discover that you're doing about this much of it, and
Mm.
you go, okay, well, you're concentrating on your job. It's métro boulot dodo, as the
Métro,
expression
boulot,
says.
dodo.
You get on the subway, you go to work, you go to bed, you go on the subway, and it was fun while I was there, but I also wanted to start a family, and I knew I didn't for me I didn't want to have children in Paris. I didn't want to have children in a big city. I wanted to be in some place smaller. And originally Paris was only meant to be a year of my life, and it ended up being 8.
Wow.
We had the companies there, but I found that I had a way that I could still run the company without having to physically be there.
So you
So
move.
that's what
Where
I
did you
did.
where did you move in the south of France?
We moved to this tiny, tiny, tiny little place where we were inhabitants, 900, 900 inhabitants, between Béziers and Narbonne.
Oh wow.
Yeah, and because it was a beautiful house, and we said, oh yes, let's. I want to go there. So it was surrounded by vineyards,
Wow.
it and lots of nature, and I think that's what we needed. We needed that for a while. So we
Well,
were there. We were there for 2 years, maybe 2 or 3 years. I had my son, and when I was pregnant with my son is when I sold Feels Like Home in Paris.
so we're
Um,
talking 2013. So you
yes,
living the way you're sharing your journey is like the perfect French experience. Paris, and now you live in the south of France. It looks like the perfect experience. But now I want to go before we get to Spain. COVID hit.
mm,
My understanding is you already very much involved online.
yes,
How did COVID impacted your business, and did you make any changes?
yes. Well, after I stopped crying and decided, okay, well, there's nothing I can do about this. I have to come up with a solution. I first decided to well, I started learning Adobe Premiere. Okay, so which is a video editing software, very heavy from Adobe. And I
Yeah.
decided to start recording videos of my husband and my son actually doing recipes. So I said the my biggest mistake would be for us to be quiet during this time because we will lose our audience. People will
Mm.
move on. People move on so quickly. Information is quick, quick, quick.
Yep.
If you're not there, people don't know
Content
you anymore.
attention. Yep.
Yeah. So I started writing. I mean, I was continuing my newsletter. We had a
Mhm.
very good sized mailing list. So I was continuing sending updates to them. And sometimes I was brutally honest when I was not okay.
Mm.
I poured my heart out to strangers. Some of them I've never met, um, and it was not easy, but I did it anyway. And one of our clients actually gave me the idea or proposed the idea of us doing an online class with her friends. And I
Mm.
was like, oh, it's not exactly the same experience. We're really contact people. It just seems too distant. But we said, okay, let's try. So we did. And then, since I had gotten all of this equipment for recording, I was using, I was like MacGyver. Anybody who knows MacGyver, I mean, I was out there rigging things. I built a studio light. Uh, I was like, I had my camera on a pole when I'm filming. I mean, if you have to go to our YouTube channel to see some of these videos, and imagine me standing on a ladder with
Wow.
my iPhone strapped to an extended pole. My other camera is here filming, and I'm holding my iPhone above to get a above plane view. And that's how I did the videos. And then I go and I edit all of those, put the two videos together, mix
Wow.
the sound. Yeah, so that's what I did
So this
during
basically
the lockdown.
during the lockdown, you literally launched a YouTube channel, a YouTube cooking channel.
Yeah, I mean, we had a YouTube channel, but I wasn't really putting very much on it before. And so I decided to do these videos. Now, it was a lot of work. So my husband was very ambitious in all the things he wanted to do, but I was the videographer, the photographer, the editor, I was wearing too many hats. But we did do quite a, no, I think, see, my son, we have 10 videos, and
Okay.
maybe of my husband, maybe about the same or maybe a little bit more. And there was all these different recipes that they were doing. And the videos of my son are very cute, I have to say. He lost 6 teeth during the confinement.
So when you launched the video, what happened? Your community grew. What happened?
So I was sharing the video with our mailing list. Basically, most of this helped me nurture the list that I already had. I
Okay,
wouldn't say that it grew it,
but at least you kept your
exponentially, though it,
community.
it helped me keep in contact with the people who were there because when I would send out a newsletter and say, listen, guys, we're doing an online cooking class, who's going to sign up? I would have all these people coming and signing up,
Mm.
because they were at home. What were they going to do? And so it gave them something to look forward to. We were on there live with them. Eric he jokes a lot. So it helped actually reinforce the community
Engage.
that we had built. Yes, it engaged
Engage
with
the
them.
community. So I want to
Yeah.
pause 2 seconds. People are joining. Hello, everyone. I'm seeing some of my friends, Shireen, Armel, my brother-in-law. This is Yetunde. Yetunde is a Nigerian born, grew up in New York, decided to move to Paris and launch a business. I mean, I'm shorting it, but you actually graduate from Cornell University, had a passion for French, went back to school to learn culinary. You went to culinary school, moved to Paris, launched her first business, sold it in 2013, and then moved to the south of France, and boom, COVID hit, decided that it's important to keep the community engaged, became a videographer, editor, and launched some online cooking classes. So, obviously, thank God you were already in the south of France, living in this beautiful house. Uh, what happened when you decided that next step is to move to Spain?
Well, in the south of France, we lived in two different places. First, we were between Narbonne and Béziers, and then we moved to this medieval village that's called Uzès,
Okay.
Uzes, and that was where actually we opened another school. So we had opened another school in 2016 called Cooking with Class Uzès, and we were doing the same thing that we had started the first school in Paris. So the school in Paris does market classes, pastry classes, and so on. But in the south of France, we concentrated on Mediterranean and Provençal cuisine.
Mm,
And Eric was taking people to the market, and we were, sharing French culture in a 5-hour class that went from market to table to plenty of wine. And from that came the idea of developing a longer program for people that would be a week long. So we started the week in Uzès, which allowed us to work on some more things that needed more time. For example, bread. You need several days normally to make good bread that tastes
mm,
good. That's not, that crap you buy at the grocery store. You need more time to make a bœuf bourguignon because it needs to sit and take and cook for an extended period of time. So
mhm,
we were able to do things like that within the week. And then I wanted to add in cultural components because I'm very big on sharing culture. So
mm.
we would have excursions. We would take them on a carriage ride. We had a
Wow.
picnic
And
outside.
that you would do that in that village that you mentioned, or you?
Yes, we did it in Uzès, so that's where that started. So, in fact, what happened during the lockdown is that I took all the things, all the ideas of the parts that I really loved about what we were doing, and I put them together. I had a domain name that I'd had for years, Let's Eat the World, and my idea was that I wanted to bring people on a journey with me to discover culture through food.
Mm,
Because for me, I don't know about for you, but some of my best memories are around food, around a
absolutely.
meal.
Actually, I have my friend Shireen who's online. She would probably agree. She went to Nigeria and Lome with me last Christmas, and all we can remember is the experience around the table. So I totally agree. Totally agree.
Yeah. And you learn so much about people through their food. There,
Absolutely.
there's a transmission of history, even just the
Absolutely.
quest for food. Where do you get your food? What kind of ingredients are you using? So those are all the things that we try to share. And then obviously as well, we want people to also discover the places. We also want to encourage people to um to shop local, to
Right.
enjoy locally,
Absolutely.
to see this artisan who's making wine, and has changed. I love people who do a change of career. That's like my big thing,
That is the best thing. But how did Sevi came about?
So when we had decided that we wanted to concentrate on just the week-long programs instead of doing those half-day classes in the south of France, um, we I needed a change. We've been living in France for so long, and I hadn't initially intended to be there for as long as that, and I wanted to have. I think I needed another challenge. I wanted another language. I wanted to discover another culture. And we said, okay, you know what? Let's test it out. I think initially we were thinking of going back to North America, maybe not the U.S., but maybe Canada, because that's
Hmm.
where Eric had lived for a while. But we said it would be too far from the business in Paris. So let's make a compromise. And they said, okay, let's think, where can we be that won't be that far, that you can just take a short plane ride to be there. And Eric came up with Spain because he spoke Spanish, having lived in Mexico. And so we said, well, that maybe would be easier because at least one of us speaks the language. It'll make things, uh,
Mm,
understanding what's happening a little bit easier. So we said, we have to test this before we go. We're not going to just take off. So
mm,
we actually spent 3 months living in Seville in 2019, in 2019 into 2020. So before COVID. In fact,
mm.
literally just before lockdown.
Wow.
So we left Seville 2 weeks before everybody shut everything down.
How was your experience living there
It
at
was
that?
fantastic. I mean,
Okay.
but it was fantastic. I mean, there's something here. I think this is the closest I've lived to the African continent since I left the African continent. There's
Mm.
something about the vibe in Sevilla that's very different from any place else that I've lived in within Europe.
Can you give us
Um,
one or two example? Because
well, I,
Sevilla is not Madrid. Sevilla is
no,
not, those big cities in Spain. So can you give us an example of one of the biggest difference,
let's
or what
see,
connects you to the African continent in Sevilla?
probably the flamenco.
The
I mean,
flamenco.
flamenco has a history, and it's becoming more and more discussed now about the roots of flamenco. And they always have often talked about the gypsy roots or the traveler roots. They've talked about the some of the European roots, and documentaries have been made in more recent times to talk about the
Mm,
African roots. Seville actually had a significant African population, even pre-slavery. And then obviously they were involved during the slave trade because this was the European port.
mm,
So there's something about the vibe. It's hard to explain. When you come and you see it, you
I
you
get it.
you get it. And I met a community of Black women living here in who had also decided to call Seville home. And it was, from throughout the diaspora, coming from the UK, some coming from the Caribbean, some coming from the
And,
US.
and what do they do there? They work. They have a
They
business.
work, they work, they work. Some of them are dancers. A few of them
Oh,
are flamenco dancers.
wow.
One girl, I got very excited because her name is Yinka Grave. She's
Yeah.
a fantastic flamenco dancer, just like my friend Esther Weeks.
Wow.
She's flamenco, she does flamenco blues. She's a
Wow.
singer. And there's a lot of performers actually,
Okay.
Seville. Um, and then also there's a lot of people who do teaching as in this area too.
And
But it was
how this, sorry to interrupt you, but how
yes,
this
okay.
impacting your business? Uh, Beside the fact that you obviously your soul, you feel super happy there. How is it your business is impacted? And doing business there, how is there a difference between doing the business there and France?
Well, my business is still in France. My business is still a French. It's still a French company, because that's one of the advantages of being a European is that with a European passport, you
That's
can you can be anywhere within Europe,
that's right.
within reason. Um, but what it did for me was to add another element. This was my test. I wanted to see whether or not if I said people come to me here, would they come?
And did they?
Because they did. We
Wow.
just finished a tour 2 weeks ago with 5 people who did our week in Seville. So I created the tour after experiencing a few things. I took them to do a flamenco class. We did went to a flamenco show. They were doing Spanish cooking lessons with us. And it's really what I would like to do. I would like to, I didn't know if people would do it. I said, okay, sometimes you feel imposter syndrome. You're like, oh, I don't
Mm,
know. Are they really going to listen to me? They go, what is this girl? What does she know about this? And
mm.
and I think actually I do put together fun, interesting programs, and I think that I can do it in just about anywhere.
So, well, that's the question that I wanted to ask you, because basically you already established a process that you tested in Sevilla. So can
Yes,
we imagine that you can go to Mexico or to Venezuela
that's
and
exactly what I want to do.
wow. So
That's exactly
what
what
is
I
your
want to
next
do.
what's the next country for you then?
Oof. Well, actually, we are planning so I'm looking at this map that my husband and my son have been working on because they're planning a world tour. And for me, the prerequisite for this tour is that I want to go to places that I want people to come to, places whose food has always intrigued me, and I want to learn more about, cultures that I want to learn about. We're hoping this is it's I think it's going to happen. It should happen by
Uh,
next year.
of
We're
course.
hoping to go we're going to go to the African continent. We're going to go to South America. Um,
What country in the African continent?
we're looking at Tanzania, possibly Kenya because I have a friend in Kenya, South Africa, going to go to Nigeria, um,
Mm,
and I
fantastic.
want to go to Senegal as well. We have to figure out how that's going to how that's going to fit in there because I want to make some tieb.
Ah,
That
Captain. Wow. I mean, Yetunde, I mean, your story is unbelievable. And obviously I'm thinking that you're doing well, your business is growing. Is there anything that you want to add about your business? Something you want to, I mean, this interview is going to be on replay, so people will be able to see it. So I want to get the out, I mean, as much as I can, for everyone and for you. What is one thing that you need right now for Let's Eat the World?
I need the word to spread because it is a new brand. I mean, what I've done is I've rebranded. I had
Mhm.
one brand name. I have now tried to um, create a new brand. I had this Brazilian Afro-Brazilian girl did the logo for me. We talked about it, what I wanted. If you've seen the logo, it's this woman who is eating the world, which is
Mm,
like a cupcake, and I deliberately asked her to make it with the French flag colors because that's where it started.
of course.
And from there, I want to see where I can take this. I want people to come on this journey with me to discover people and cultures through their food
Yeah.
because we have so much to share. We always talk about all the things that make us different. And I think that this is the one thing that brings us together. Everybody knows that the best room in the house at any party is the kitchen,
Absolutely. I mean, I just
you
come off
know?
Thanksgiving. This is where everyone was congregating. So
Exactly.
I concur with what you just said. So everyone who's joining, please follow Let's Eat the World. I think that, you're going to learn so much about the Yetunde experience. I think what you're doing is amazing. This is what the world needs. We need things to keep us together, and food is definitely one of them. So there's always a few questions that I ask for my guest. The first question is, what would you say to your younger self? Basically, what you know today that you probably didn't know when you were young. What would be the one thing that you would tell her?
Uh, I would probably say don't get discouraged. Your time will come.
Don't get discouraged. Your time will come. Okay. I'm assuming that there's been a lot of discouragement.
Oh, there's a lot of things that were out of my control. I mean, you talked about COVID, but remember before COVID, there was the attentat in Paris,
That's right.
and that already had a huge impact. And in fact, 2000, we were like, yeah, this is a good year. We could see this is going to be a good year. And then COVID came, and you're like, oh.
That's right. But
So,
we both know that being an entrepreneur is and
oh, ups and downs.
a
Yep,
successful one is the one who are able to bounce back and to
yep.
adjust and and go with the changes. So I totally understand that. The second question that I have for you is, what's your favorite quote?
My favorite,
Citation quote.
mm, carpe diem. It's not a quote, it's just a word. Carpe diem has been something that I've tried to hang on to all my life. It's Latin, seize the day, carpe diem. I would
Okay.
write it on the wall.
Wow. Your favorite film?
Oh, my
I know
favorite
it's a
film.
hard question, but
Yeah.
I'm in film, so I always love
Hmm.
to know. First thing that come to your mind. But if you don't have it in mind yet,
Probably,
huh?
probably Mary Poppins because
Mary Poppins.
yes, I have these fond childhood memories of watching Mary Poppins before. Uh, I think I saw it back when I was still in Nigeria. Oh no, I
Okay,
watched it in Togo. I watched it in Togo with my cousin because I was visiting my cousin in Togo, and she had the VHS, so we watched Mary Poppins, and I absolutely loved this movie. I
awesome.
loved the enthusiasm of it.
Wow. And what's your favorite restaurant? But in your case, I always ask my guests to share their favorite restaurant in the different places they run their business. Since Let's Eat the World headquarter is in Paris, and that you currently live in Sevilla.
Mm.
I don't know if the south of France could be one of them. Do you still have your house in the south of France?
No, 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 no.
So Paris, what's your favorite restaurant in Paris and your favorite restaurant in Sevilla, Spain?
In
I know
Paris.
it's a hard one, but you have to come up with
It
one.
is. I know, I know. Um, hmm. Well, it was one that I was talking about the other day. It's called L'Orient d'Or. It's
Where is
a,
that?
it's
In
a,
Paris or Sevilla?
it's in Paris in the ninth.
Ninth arrondissement?
It's
Mm-hmm.
it's a Chinese restaurant. I believe it's either Szechuan or Hunan. So
Mm-hmm.
it's spicy. I love spicy.
You love
So
spice. Okay.
I love spicy. So that's one.
L'Orient d'Or. Okay.
L'Orient d'Or. And in Seville, um, the one that I've gone back to several times, not necessarily because it's the best. It's called Típico Barra de Tapas.
Típico Bana de Tapas. Is
Barra de
tapas?
tapas. So which means it means a typical tapas bar is what it means
Okay.
literally.
Oh, Típico Bar
And
de Tapas.
it sounds like it's a tourist trap, but it's not. The food is not expensive. It's always good. For me, they have the best rabo de toro, which is an oxtail stew that they do here.
Okay.
For me, it's the best that I've had in Seville. I don't know if it's true or not, but for me, yes. So it's
Okay.
called Típico Barra de Tapas.
Typical Barra de Tapas.
Exactly.
Well, Yetunte, you're not typical. You know, I must say, Nigerian born, moved to New York when you were 6 years old, moved to Paris, speak French, moved to Spain, speak Spanish, and meaning that anything is possible. And that's really what I'm trying to do with this show. Just the fact that you told me that you launched a business in 2007 in Paris and you sold it in 2013 in Paris. France is not an easy city. So that's why I applaud you. We're going to support you. I can't wait to see where you're going next. I don't know if I'm going to go to Spain or meet you somewhere in Africa or Latin America. But here is are you the founder or the co-founder of Let's Eat the World? I want to know.
I'm the founder. So it's a collaborative effort, but I'm the founder of Let's Eat the World.
Girl boss. Yetunde Fraudeau, the CEO, the founder of Let's Eat the World. Please follow her on Instagram. She's amazing, and thank you so much for sharing your time. Anything that you want to tell the audience before we leave?
Um, I would say to just always try. Don't I mean one of the things that I like to encourage people to do is to test test your limits. Make that trip. Take that trip because tomorrow there's no guarantee.
That's right.
So today, seize the day. As I said, carpe diem. You go for it, and no regrets.
That's right. Well, thank you for those last words. The video is going to be available on replay on my YouTube channels. I'm going to send it on my social media. Follow me if you want to learn more about the show. And have a beautiful Sunday. I know it's quite late in Europe.
Yes.
And talk to you soon. Au
Thank you
revoir.
so much for having me. Bye
You're
bye.
welcome. Adios.
Adios.
Bye.